Akira Kurosawa was a master of his craft when it came to storytelling, from quiet and serene moments to dramatic and intense duels. Coupled with the range of Toshiro Mifune's acting ability, these two were a force to be reckoned with. They made their mark not only in Japanese history, but on the film industry as a whole. Similar to how cowboy movies in the West dominated the film world in the 1950s and 60s,
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch!
Japan had a similar style, but with a more traditional approach. These were called jidaigeki, also called period dramas, or more commonly referred to as the samurai film. Rather than fast-paced and loud, over-the-top gunfights, these films focused on quiet, slow movements with an explosive climax. They told stories about Japan's guardians in a way that made them interesting and relatable, yet kept to their cultural roots. Kurosawa didn't just create good samurai cinema, he created a legacy. Many filmmakers looked to Kurosawa as an influence, but his most influential work had to have been his magnum opus, The Seven Samurai. Recreated in various forms, The Magnificent Seven, tribute episodes for both Star Wars The Clone Wars and The Mandalorian. Hell, even A Bug's Life. Really think about that for a minute. What made this one 1954 film so influential and important? The plot is pretty simple. I mean, there's not even a main antagonist. A farmer in his village gets attacked by bandits, so he goes out into the city to recruit 7 samurai to fight for them. Now, this doesn't sound like the most compelling story, and really think about it, would you want to sit through a 3-hour movie if that's all there is to it? Fortunately, one of Kurosawa's strengths was making each character he put on screen likable, relatable, and interesting, especially when it came to his main cast. He had to give 7 different characters interesting personalities and quirks that made them different from each other. The question here is, how do you make 7 different personalities for each individual samurai? The answer? Bushido. The tricky thing about making a movie about samurai is that if you want to keep it culturally accurate and historically correct, you have to have the samurai serve a lord. Doesn't sound all that interesting, does it? That's why a lot of good samurai cinema is about a ronin, the masterless samurai. Now, there are obviously some exceptions where a samurai serving under a lord can work. For instance, Throne of Blood or even Hidden Fortress. But in my personal opinion, the most interesting character traits come from stories about a ronin. This is what the 7 samurai are. They're 7 ronin, and each character is an embodiment of a virtue from Bushido, the samurai code of honor. Within Bushido lie 7 virtues: justice, courage, politeness, honesty and sincerity, honor, loyalty, and benevolence or self-control. This was how a samurai was supposed to act and treat others. A samurai would follow these virtues while serving under his lord. However, becoming a ronin was the greatest shame a samurai could face, and it's very possible that while living such a shameful life, the ronin would abandon certain virtues, since it didn't really matter to them anymore. With the case of the 7 samurai, I noticed that each of them represented one virtue. Towards the beginning of the film, we meet the leader of the group, Shimada Kanbei, shaving his head, getting ready to dress up as a Buddhist monk to save a child that's been kidnapped. He successfully saves the child and does so without drawing his sword until it was necessary. This is why he represents benevolence, or self-control. His compassion for human life makes him a great leader and strategist. He would rather save lives than take them. He also showed a great amount of self-control when approaching the criminal. He gets it. He lives his life as a ronin, a poverty-stricken life. So he understands what this criminal is going through. He's just trying to get some penny change. He's just doing it in a not the best way. And his goal here is he wants to save the kid and try and reach the criminal to help him. Unfortunately, it doesn't play out like that. In another instance, Katsushiro begged Kanbei to accept him as a student. Kanbei initially declined, warning him that he's nothing but bad luck, stating that he's been in many wars but has been on every losing side. He even states this at the end of the film. Because of his benevolence, it seems that he doesn't think very highly of himself, and he doesn't want to bring anyone down with him due to his failures. In this case, he doesn't want to set Katsushiro up for failure. Young and innocent, Okamoto Katsushiro has a kind heart and is willing to do anything to help. He treats everyone with the utmost respect and knows his manners, which is why he represents politeness. Whenever he acknowledges Kanbei, he refers to him as sensei, which essentially means teacher. Not once do we see Katsushiro refer to him as Kanbei or Shimada. Even when Kyozo returned from infiltrating the bandit camp to steal a rifle, Katsushiro approached him just to say how amazing he was, even if it was a little awkward.
どうした今なら早く言え俺は少し眠るあなた素晴らしい人です
Speaking of awkward, how about when he deflowered Shino? During the second act, Katsushiro and one of the farmer's daughters spend some, intimate time together. They're caught by the father, and while he beats Shino and calls her names, Katsushiro stays in silence and regret. He knows he made a mistake, and even if he wanted to get involved and help Shino, he knows that he would just make things worse, not only for him and Shino, but for the rest of the farmers, and maybe even the rest of the samurai. If there's one virtue the samurai followed to the letter, character, whatever, you know what I mean. Being loyal to a feudal lord was big. There was no greater honor than serving as a vassal or a retainer to a daimyo or the shogun. Now, even though the seven are ronin, one of these vagabonds shows great loyalty to Kanbei, Katayama Gorobe. Gorobe was the first samurai to join Kanbei's group. We first meet him when Kanbei has Katsushiro test him as he enters their hut. Katsushiro would strike him upon his head, and if Gorobe blocked, he would have the wits needed to help the group. Gorobe immediately saw through this ruse and agreed to join. He says that he liked Kanbei's character, and that was his main motivation for joining. He would act as the strategist and come up with battle plans for when the bandits would strike, up until his unfortunate demise during a skirmish with the bandits. It was also Gorobe who helped set up the training regimens for the villagers. He fits loyalty because of why he wants to help. He's not doing it for fame, glory, or even the free food. Although, free food is good. I mean, who's gonna say no to free food? But simply because he likes Kanbei and would do anything for him. Almost as if Kanbei was a shogun or a daimyo for this unlikely band of misfits. Since we're on the topic of unlikely allies, the next three happen pretty fast. We have Shichiroji, who was a close war friend of Kanbei's and his lieutenant. Shichiroji is one of the characters that didn't quite get ultimate screen time, which made it a bit difficult to correctly give him a virtue. Ultimately, though, I decided on justice. Mainly because even though he knows that this might be the fight that kills him, he agrees anyway, because he knows it's the right thing to do. These farmers deserve the justice. Meanwhile, Gorobe does some recruiting of his own. This is when we meet Hayashida Hayachi. Gorobe finds him while talking to an innkeeper. Said innkeeper says he hired a samurai to chop wood, and as a reward, the samurai would be fed. Gorobe proceeds to watch Hayachi work. Quite creepily, actually. Like, this is the face of, I'm going to follow you home and kill you in your sleep. They talk, and we find out that Heihachi isn't the best swordsman, that he would rather run than engage in combat. Gorobe admires his honesty and thinks that he would bring high spirits to bad times, which fits the bill for honesty. Before Gorobe meets Heihachi, the innkeeper even tells him that he likes Heihachi's frankness, which is another word for honesty. One of the reasons honesty was so important to Bushido was because it kept most of the samurai in check. Moving on to courage, and oh boy, was this some good Kurosawa greatness. We meet Kyozo, the best fighter of the bunch, who unfortunately met his ironic end not by the sword, but by the rifle. Early on, we meet Kyozo and are introduced to his fighting prowess. He's dueling another swordsman with a bokken, or practice sword, although I think in the movie they just used bamboo or whatever. They end up striking each other, and it seems like a tie. His opponent even claims it as a draw. But Kyozo very calmly states that if it was real steel, then his opponent would be dead. This enrages the no-name duelist, and he demands a rematch, but with actual weapons. Kyozo accepts, and in the words of Kanbei, The opponent was wild and angry, while Kyozo was calm, collected, and focused. Some of the things that are taught with Japanese sword fighting. His opponent was flinching at every one of Kyozo's movements, while Kyozo made very slight and slow steps, and only reacted when making the killing blow. In turn, Kyozo took the victory. The fact that Kyozo even accepted the rematch shows that he's not only a brave warrior, but a confident one. Before he accepted the duel, he told the opponent, "Don't throw away your life." Pretty much saying, "I'm better than you." Okay, paraphrase, sure, but the message still stands. His confidence shines even brighter during his infiltration mission. In the third act, the Ronin are outmanned and outgunned, literally. While the bandits were resting, Kyozo used the fog to his advantage and broke through the enemy lines, single-handedly, and stole a rifle from them, while taking out 4 to 5 bandits. Talk about an absolute badass. Finally, but most certainly not the least, is Kikoshio. And for him, honor seems fitting. Now, hang on. I know this sounds crazy, but really think about it. What does having honor actually mean? According to some quick Google searches and not Wikipedia, an honorable person is someone who believes in truth and doing the right thing, and tries to live up to those high principles. There's definitely a lot more to it than that, but that warrants a topic of its own for another day. Future video, maybe? But for now, we'll just keep it simple. On a surface level, this might be contradictory, because Kikoshio did lie about him being a samurai, and may or may not have stolen someone's family tree.
この菊千代と申す者がお主に間違いなければ、お主は当年とって13歳。この系図、どこで盗んだ?
And sure, he can be a little on the wild side, or drunk side. He did fail the awareness test from Kanbei and Katsushiro, but that's not the point. The truth is, he knows what these farmers are going through. When they discovered about the farmers had killed samurai and stashed their armor away, Kikoshio was the first and probably the only one to defend their actions. It's revealed that he was born into a farmer's family, so he knows that they probably had no choice but to do what they had to do. Another point that needs to be considered is that Kikoshio is kind of looking for respect. When he first attempts to join the Ronin, they turn him down and say they are looking for real samurai. It seems that from that point, Kikoshio wanted to be respected by everyone. He grew jealous of Kyozo because of his courageous mission to obtain a rifle. He thought that he could do that as well, but better. He left his post and disguised himself as the enemy and stole another rifle. Kanbei lectures him about selfishly rushing into battle for glory. However, I think it was more for respect. In the scene prior, Katsushiro was talking to Kikoshio, say that 3 times fast, about how great Kyozo was. We can see that this got on his nerves, so in response, he went out by himself to outdo Kyozo. Not for pride or ego, but to prove that he is a worthy samurai. He needed to prove this, not just to the other samurai, but to himself. And yes, one could argue that he would fall under respect or justice, and that's a fair and valid argument. However, when it really comes down to it, he believes the way he goes about life is the right way, and he sticks to that. While he does try to prove himself, he also doesn't need the rest of the Ronin's approval. He knows he's fighting the good fight, and fighting for the right reasons. This is what makes him honorable. In the end, Kikoshio proved himself an honorable samurai by taking out the bandit leader at the cost of his own life. He sacrificed himself for the safety of his fellow farmer brethren. Even though he wasn't a samurai, the Ronin still treated him as such and honored him by burying him alongside the rest of the fallen. Akira Kurosawa created a film of pure inspiration, passion, and love of his nation's history and culture. The Seven Samurai would go on to become a masterpiece and influence many other great films and filmmakers. While it didn't create many of the story beats present, it revolutionized them in a lot of their concepts and married them into a great formula that works. All thanks to Bushido. So this is it! This is the new style of the channel. This is where we're going to be going from here. I hope you guys are okay with that. I really like samurai, Japanese history, culture, samurai films, Akira Kurosawa, everything. I love all of it. Everything Japanese culture related. I'm just so into it. I'm passionate about it, and I just want to talk about it. Any excuse to talk about the Seven Samurai, I'm in. But did you guys agree with my picks? Did you agree with the virtues that fit these characters? I'm pretty sure there's going to be some disagreements, but hey, I want to hear from you. What would you have made each character? Which virtue would you have given each character? I want to hear from you guys, so put that in the comment section below. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you like this kind of content, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It'll let you know when I put out another video, and you get to hear me be even more passionate about samurai goodness. So until then, I'll catch you guys later. Thanks for watching.